Welcome, everyone. We are glad you are able to join us tonight virtually from around the globe. And we're excited to have you and all of our amazing performers. And to start off, I'll give a brief introduction of ISA. Indian Students Association at UC Berkeley is an org that was created to make South Asian students from all over the world feel at home and also feel connected to their culture through large-scale in-person events, including Ras Garba, Diwali, and Holi. This school year, we have aimed to expand our horizon, and so we started our speaker series where we invited notable South Asian speakers, activists, artists, and professionals to be able to bring these important socio-political conversations on the Berkeley campus. We hosted transgender activist Dr. Padmashali and anti-trafficking activist Dr. Krishnan recently. And today, we are beyond excited to present our last event of the semester, Poetry Night. Now, I will give it off to Kavya.
Hey everyone, welcome again. We are so glad you guys took out some time out of your weekend to log in for this event. Before we get started, I just wanted to talk about the theme of tonight. We chose to highlight mental health and identity because of how relevant it is for our generation. And within the greater South Asian diaspora, conversations regarding mental health and identity are still heavily stigmatized. And so we hope to slowly break that barrier by bringing in forms of art that highlight various stories of mental health and identity. And before we start, I would just like to open with a poem of my own. This poem is about growing up and learning to appreciate the roller coaster of life. So without further ado, this piece is titled "To My Future Daughter." To my future daughter, you will rise like a bright star. You will come to this world with so much curiosity in your eyes. You will ask questions and fall and crawl. You will be, and I will be there to pick you up when you need it. You will be held in my arms and in my heart without any conditions. Just keep breathing and thinking and growing. You will go and learn about the world. You will learn about triangles and circles. You will learn about the little stars in the pitch dark sky. You will learn about the sun that illuminates lives. You will hear stories of those who lived before us. You will jump and play and learn about others. You will expand. You will find small moments of joy. You will then grow, and the star that was born will not burn out yet. Just keep breathing and thinking and growing. Destiny is overrated. Create a path you want to follow. You will leave home. You will leave all that you know. You will be excited. You will be sad. You will listen to more music and will find meaning in the little things. You will appreciate what you had. You will have small regrets. Turn them into lessons, which is easier said than done. You will fall and fall and fall, and you will hurt so much. You will miss home. You will miss comfort. But you will grow, and the star that was born will not burn out yet. Just keep breathing and growing. You will then start a new page. You will continue to write your story. You will find yourself in others. You will find the importance of the triangles and circles in life. Angles matter, perspectives matter, points matter, edges and boundaries matter, connection matters. You will find that triangles and circles have a lot in common. You will find that circles are a part of your emotions. Everything comes back around. Connection matters. You will look at the stars with more wonder than you ever did. You will find yourself as a child. You will understand the complexity of the stars blooming like radiant flowers, showering us with so many emotions. You will learn to accept darkness as long as you promise to find the little lights to guide you home. You will stay and sit with your emotions. You will validate yourself. You will find people. You will find love. You will love so much and you will feel loved. And you will realize that the words you learned as a child hold a lot of meaning to you. You will learn that the words mean more to you than the toys you've had. Words mean more than even the stars sometimes. You will learn to let yourself go. You will put your trust into others. And you will experience a different kind of warmth, something I can't give you. You choose this warmth, and you will hold on to the bond. The sun will shine brighter, the skies will look like cotton candy, but bonds may break. You will try to hold on, but bonds will break. Your heart will feel new feelings. You will feel broken. You will cry and cry and cry. Getting up will be horrible, but just remember, I will be there to pick you up when you need it. Listen to me, baby girl. This is just the beginning. Bonds form, bonds break, you will cry. Bonds form, bonds break, you will cry. Bonds form, bonds break, you will cry. Bonds form, and one day they won't break. They stay for some more, then they stick, and you will stop crying. You will learn more and more about who you are. You will be independent. You will then grow, and the star that was born will not burn out yet. Just keep breathing and thinking and growing. Keep connecting the stars to triangles and circles. Keep writing, keep feeling. You are valid, you are loved. You will be held in my arms and in my heart forever without any conditions. Baby girl, it's true. It too will pass. With love, your future mom. And with that, I'll pass it off to our amazing moderators for tonight, Ayushi and Pratyush. And good luck to all our artists. You guys will do great.
Thank you so much for that beautiful poem, Kavya. That was very meaningful, and it felt very deep and a very personal connection to that. So hello everyone, my name is Pratyush Singh and I'm one of the co-presidents for ISA, and tonight I will be one of the moderators for this event. I'd say we've crafted this event with a lot of love. So thank you to all the artists who are here for taking time out for us and joining us tonight. The theme of this event, mental health and identity, is very close to my heart. It's a very sensitive, though important subject that we've chosen to highlight tonight. There are people around us who are struggling with challenges they can't talk about because of the fear of validation. Conversations around the subject have not been difficult, but have not only been difficult, but for a lot of people, been non-existent. I think it's important we realize the gravity of the situation and do our part in awareness and awakening surrounding mental health. Moreover, the idea of identity, it means different things to different people. Largely, it comes with a call for acceptance for all genders, religions, cultures, languages, and all uniqueness that we as humans possess. It also means accepting our own selves, accepting our interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships. Sometimes the struggle is between fitting into the norms of the society that have been laid out for us and just being our true selves. I'm glad we're able to have this conversation through the medium of art tonight. I can't wait to see how our artists bring forward these themes with amazing work they've done and continue to do. I'm glad once again that you all could join us, and I'm so excited for this event. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for that beautiful description, Pratyush. Hello, everyone. My name is Ayushi, and I am on the Diversity and Inclusions Committee here at ISA. I will be moderating the event tonight with Pratyush. I personally have witnessed how difficult it is to have discussions about our mental health with loved ones and friends around me through the years. But I've also been blessed with family members who are willing and open to evolving. And so the idea of identity is one I believe interplays with mental health quite a bit. And in a world as diverse as ours, it is a wonderful dichotomy that we are proud to be exploring tonight with this event. So I, along with Pratyush, am very, very glad that we are able to host these important conversations on our platform. Communication is key, and spoken word poetry, in my eyes, is a great way to make this impact. So without further ado, this leads us into the amazing speakers we have lined up for you guys tonight. So let's start off with our first poet, Diksha Bijani. Diksha Bijani is an internationally acclaimed spoken word poet from India and graduate from Harvard University. She won India's first national youth poetry slam with her college team and was the runner-up in Button Poetry's International Poetry Video Contest, making her the first poet from India to be featured on Button Poetry. Diksha has been a featured poet for Bowery Poetry in New York, Fem Slam in Cambridge, Women in Power Conference at Harvard University, amongst others. Through her poems, she has been a critic of the Indian government's clampdown on students' right to dissent, the dehumanized nature of policymaking in India, and the toxic TV soap culture in India, which tells women that they need to be subservient in order to be loved. Her poems, though thematically expansive, embody the central belief that our personal stories and our empathy for other stories is the most powerful force in the world. So we are so happy to have you here today, Diksha, and we cannot wait to hear from you.
Thanks, Ayushi, and I hope you can all hear me well. I mean, you never know. Have to always ask that question, but thanks for this event, especially at a time when you see stuff flowing in from India, which is truly just horrific, to say the least. And this is the stuff that we know, and I only wonder what we don't know. So mental health becomes even more important in a time where physical health is as palpable to risk as is mental health. And so, the focus being on physical health, it's more important to talk about mental health. I mean, to me, mental health poetry, at its core is about resistance through empathy, and empathy towards yourself, most importantly. And what that means is that, for me, through my experience, it really just functions at two levels. The first level is where you've lived through pain, through an experience so deeply that to write a poem about that mental health issue is merely an extension of yourself. You're writing about anxiety, but that's really your lived reality, And one writes poems like that to give someone else the language to name their pain. But a lot of times they write poems like that to also make visible a very invisible kind of pain. So that for that very reason alone, I think that level alone, if that's just the level you step on to, mental health poetry is important. But there's another level which sort of, is more unseen, and it's sort of not into the contours of what we today call mental health poetry. And that is when, your identity in the world itself is a risk factor for your mental health. So, you guys talked about your experience as brown students in an American campus, an experience that I'm also very familiar with, to say the least. And, or you talk about your caste identity within an Indian community itself, or your gender identity, or your sexual identity. And when these identities that we, so comfortably inhabit are under a constant oppression from the world, what happens is that the line between what we call mental health, which is, sort of this innate internal conflict that you need to sit with a therapist to resolve, that line, between that line and the other line, which is your lived reality of microaggressions, it gets very blurred. And so my question is, so how does one talk about mental health in a world like that? When your political identity itself is a risk factor for your mental health? Like, should I write a poem about high functioning depression and leave it at that, hoping that it will empower me to sail through? And my experience, dictates that a lot of times, especially in times like these, your anxiety and your depression can often be a coping mechanism in itself. I mean, rather than something that we need to cope with, they emerge out of a situation, a political situation that you are surrounded by. It's the reality of the world in the way that it treats your identity. So in that ways, it's no longer a silo, but it's sort of like it's no longer a political vacuum. You no longer can divorce your political identity from your art. And that's just what my experience has been. So all this just to say, that it's important for us to remember that, yes, the personal is political, but a lot of times the political is personal too. And that it's important to remember that it can debilitate us in ways that we don't even know. And in that sense, to write about, to write a political poem in addition to, what I use the analogy of disease and symptom. And I say that a lot of times our mental health is a symptom of another political disease that is our lived reality. And so a lot of times to write about that disease, in addition to writing about the symptom, which also is very important, just makes it less lonely to deal with mental health on your own. And it's also a way to validate your experience. And so, and it also takes a lot of empathy to do that in itself, because you're empathizing with yourself to realize your experiences. So I'll stop at that in terms of my remarks. I'll perform the poem called High Functioning Depression, which I always say is my most lived truth, in the sense that it's the kind of depression that even people who are very productive and overachieving feel. And I'm actually a major in applied psychology, and for us, our reality was that when we were taught about clinical psychology, it was mostly people who were not productive. So that was a very important to them, a symptom of depression. And later on, we started talking more about how you can be very productive. In fact, productivity can be a coping mechanism, and you can still be depressed. So that's the gist of the poem, and I'll just perform that for you guys. My friends always tell me you never answer your phone. I wake up with 12 missed calls and 2 more which are waiting to be missed. A little birdie tells me these days, mom doesn't even wait for the final bell before she disconnects. So maybe if I was a millennial version of Rachel Green, exchanging phone numbers with strangers at bars every night, I'd still be single. The inside of my head has never been a good place to be. I give customized names to my alarms these days, like get your ass to class or Beyonce is having twins and you're not one of them. But each morning, the sound of them is like a new kind of danger siren. Mom has a simple solution. My psychology classes will help me cope. They make the inside of my head feel like an unclean attic, and the professor has a simple solution. Lack of sunlight leads to clinical depression. I don't know if I'm depressed, but this makes me scared of moving away from the sun. So I lay my emptiness out on sunny lawns, hoping this time solar energy would make it full. But I've always fought sadness with productivity, like I fight missed call with silent modes. And when somebody says workaholic, I hear coping mechanism. And when mom says she's proud I've been single all my college life, she sees a busy life, not messed up relationship patterns. High functioning depression is like depression on steroids. Everybody is happy as long as the work gets done and you don't remember doing the work at all. It is depression with perfectionism. It is everything you've ever dreamt of happened to you, but not feel like everything you ever dreamt of. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, they call it persistent depressive syndrome. Persistent because it goes unnoticed for years or even decades, and I wonder where it hides for so long. In high CGPAs, socializing on social media, socially acceptable professional success, looking happy, or maybe in an unforgiving refusal to be debilitated by your illness. Nobody can know as long as they think I'm busy. Nobody can know as long as they don't really know me. How else do you think I get away with all the missed calls? Weekdays are an omen dressed as ambition. One half of me wants to stay asleep forever. The other half purposely strikes off sleep from morning schedules, hoping to make up for the productivity that is lost while I'm moping or longing or just generally feeling. And this persistent depression takes the blanket off me and says, darling, this wreckage in your head will not do the work for you, but it'll still be there when the work gets done. So let go right now. This cemetery in your head is a distraction. You are a distraction. The only thing that matters right now is how fast you use the shovel, even if it is to dig your own grave. So stop hoping for smiling faces and good morning texts when you wake up. Waking up is a purely mechanical act. 1, 2, 3 up. So don't tell me where it hurts. And I don't tell the depression where it hurts on weekdays. But on Sundays, I try self-therapy. This therapist inside of me says, the professor said all I need is sunlight. So I sit by the window and the sun rays walk in as warrior to defeat my anguish. But this persistent depression is the only immortal thing in my mortal body. It is housed in for years, taken the place of my soul, wakes up an hour before me every morning, waters the sadness, tucks me in like a shackle, serves self-doubt as morning breakfast, renames my alarms to nothing really matters. makes every wake up call flashing on the screen look like an arrest warrant. I cannot answer because I am guilty, but I'm also already serving my time. And mom always said the worst kind of pain is the invisible one. And maybe she was wrong. Maybe the worst kind of pain is one that does not seem like pain at all. Maybe I don't need help at all. I just need convincing that this success really is therapy, that 12 hours a day and coffee is not mental illness. You should see the ones who really have it, how it devours them from the inside until you can literally see their life fall apart, how it does not let them breathe. And yes, I've never needed a mask to breathe. I've only needed reasons to. And one day, I'm scared I'll run out of reasons to. So I'll just stop. Maybe then you can literally see my life fall apart. Thank you.
That was a very moving piece of poetry. Diksha, thank you for sharing that with us. Your thoughts regarding the high functioning depression, it was very eye opening, and a lot of things that were very obvious, but we don't notice in the world around us. Thank you for also um, sharing your response about how you approach poetry and how you think about whenever you write it. It really means a lot to us. And the context really helps us understand the depth this poetry explores. Thank you. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. Next, we have Dhruv. Dhruv Shah is an actor, poet, and two-time TEDx speaker. Dhruv's poems are based on his life experiences with issues such as gender roles, bodies, and social issues. A clinical hypnotherapy and past life regression therapist by training. Dhruv describes himself as an artist with a cause. We're so excited to have you, Dhruv. Thank you for taking out time this morning and joining us. Cannot wait to
Thank you
listen
so
more.
much, Pratyush, for that introduction. And wow, Diksha, that was really powerful, and I resonated with a lot of points that you mentioned. Mental health and identity have been two themes that have always been central and pivotal to a lot of my interpersonal and intrapersonal life experiences. Uh, More so because I feel like I don't fall under the typical dichotomy of gender roles in that uh, I have been bullied for not being society's version of masculine enough while I was growing up, and while I'm extremely comfortable in my masculinity today, while growing up, when you're bullied for being different or called, a baila or a pansy, or God was going to make a woman and he ended up making you, or things like that, it makes you shut down sides of yourself that you think will meet with rejection. And that's extremely detrimental to identity because you literally close off your identity that you think will not find acceptance. And so a lot of my initial poems are based on my life experiences with things like gender roles and body shaming. So I'll do my first poem for y'all, which is about my idea of gender roles and my understanding of it so far. I have a thin body and a small face. Not enough masculine grace. You're not manly enough, they say. But today my feelings will see the light of day. No, no, we're not foes, but still, here it goes. I have some questions, some apprehensions, such as why should he see a shrink if he likes the color pink? And why should she too if she likes the color blue? Who decided these molds? Who made these gender roles? What gives them their hold? No, there's nothing bold about calling someone tiny, about calling someone fat. Your ego isn't shiny, and your morality is a dead rat. You're body shaming, which is just blaming your own inadequacies on another person's build. No, there's nothing skilled. You're just wrong. Yes, there's no rhyme there, but I don't really care. I know I'm a poet and I don't need to show it. But here's something you need to know: the size of your brain, it needs to grow. So that's the first one. Based on my experiences with these things. And what I'm very grateful for is once I started expressing using my poetry and started putting it out on Instagram and otherwise, the amount of validation, support, and resonance that it found with other people's narratives was so empowering because I realized that so many people go through the things that we all go through, and our identity is destroyed so much for the sake of society's norms. But when you speak about when you speak your truth, it resonates with other people's truth, and you realize that you're not alone. It's not a lone story. I remember a Muslim girl, soon to be married, DM'd me on Instagram after one of my poems, saying that her fiance wasn't masculine enough, but my poem on gender roles and masculinity made her realize that not his masculinity but his heart is what is going to stay with them. And that meant a lot for me, because something that I considered so I say this often, that converting my scars to stars, everything that I experienced, with bullying or otherwise, with an artistic expression, allows you to convert your scars to stars. And I think that's the most beautiful power we have as artists. I genuinely think it's like a magical power. Like, we literally get to make people feel, we literally get to take our story. I'm actually doing a web show right now, filming it, and I'm playing a character where while we were workshopping with the director, I performed this poem that I just did for you all, and she said, "Is there a copyright on it?" And I said, "No." She said, "We're keeping it because I'm playing a trans Muslim character, like female to male. So I'm playing a male character, but the point I'm trying to make is that the same things that I didn't celebrate for so long enough are now being celebrated at such a scale that my first poem about my scars is literally going into a web show that I'm doing, which just points to the fact that, when you own your truth, then you really shine really bright, no matter what the scenario is. And so that's a little bit about my intrapersonal experiences. I'll do something in the interpersonal space now with regards to the pandemic and how it's been really difficult in India, wherein, the next lockdown, and it gets really intense. It can get lonely, it can get a lot of things. And this is a piece that I did um about the idea. So we've all been looking for a vaccine, it just came out recently, but we've all been looking for a vaccine. And a vaccine is a substance that strengthens your system for future attacks. So this poem is called What If 2020 is the vaccine? Because what if everything that we experienced in the year 2020 is actually to strengthen us for the things to come? So, what if 2020 is the vaccine? Vaccine, a substance that strengthens your system for future attacks. Was 2020 the year that life's plans were thrown under the bus, or the year that we realized we have far too many blessings to cuss? Because when pregnant migrants died and were doomed walking home, I doom scrolled on Instagram in my air conditioned home. Because when 60-year-olds died of COVID 19, I got it and I survived. I lived and I thrived. Because when hungry animals died looking for food on the streets, I celebrated Diwali at home with sweets. But it has been a difficult year. I mean, one day in October, the electricity was gone for an hour. No Wi Fi, no AC for 1 hour. Which is also when my helper told me that in his village, the power only comes for 1 hour. Our power. What if 2020 is the vaccine? Because the emptiness of this year is to make us value the abundance that is to follow. What if 2020 is the vaccine? Because while the coronavirus has taken many lives, what if the slowdown has prevented many heart attacks? What if 2020 is the vaccine? Because what if the loneliness that we experienced this year is to make us value the closeness that is to follow? In fact, the loneliness of not having many people to love and laugh with for 10 months is what finally made me start celebrating my own company and start loving myself. 2020 made me perform the sorcery of converting my scars to stars. Speaking of stars, 2020's smoke free skies have finally granted me permission to look at the stars above my ceiling. There has been healing. The sparrows and Malabar cats have returned, and swimming past BMWs on Marine Drive are real life dolphins. The planet is healing, and so are its people. But pollute again, and there will be a sequel. Speaking of sequels, it's safe to say that the two defining characteristics of 2020 have been noise and silence. Noise outside and silence inside. And this year I became so comfortable with the silence that the noise became unbearable. The noise of news, notifications, and 100 things to keep up with. And so in 2020 silence, I concluded that it is okay to work towards a noiseless life. We need not feel lesser for not consuming every bit of information that pops up on our timeline. This is my timeline, birth to death. And I will not let screen time be the reason for my scream time. I want me time. 2020 taught me the art of me time. What if 2020 is the vaccine? So that is about the current scenario, which is back to where we are right now with another intense lockdown. And I'll do a final piece that is also related to something that I think we will all resonate with, which is body shaming. We've all had, a lot of us have had acne growing up. It's given us scars. We've not had the perfect skin. I was once asked whether I have chicken pox when I was growing up and I had acne. To anybody out there who has acne and is still growing up, it gets better and it goes away. But this is a piece that I did based on my experiences with not having the perfect face. I have scars across my face. Many call them a disgrace. Someone once told me, every morning, Dhruv, splash your face with piss. This is the secret to clear skin bliss. A stranger once pointed to my acne covered face and said, do you have chicken pox? What are these spots on your head? Defeated, I said, no, sorry, this is my skin, and sorry, it doesn't glow, but about natural processes and hormones, who is expected to know? Either I'm too fat or too thin, or I have a double chin, or I need to go to the gym to build my matchstick like body. Society, I am sorry that I am scrawny, but it is your brain that needs a workout, not my body. And for her double chin, do not make her feel sorry. For every fold that someone holds carries a story to be told. Let's be done with these molds and these narrow minded holds. Because, darling, we are gold. This is our story, and it will be told. Because, darling, we are gold. This is our story, and it will be told. Thank you.
That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you. I have literal goosebumps. It took me on a roller coaster of emotions, but thank you for talking about your journey of shutting down sides of yourself, just incredibly detrimental to your identity, which I completely agree with. But you are also very correct in that your work highlights many people's experiences. So I'm very glad you've been able to find solace with the support of so many people that acknowledge how great your work is.
Thank you
And
so much.
I especially love the whole concept of converting your scars to stars. That's definitely something I'm going to carry with me after tonight. But we are very grateful that you do what you do and that you were able to encapsulate the package that was 2020 so beautifully, and the package of your experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Y'all have been so lovely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, following that, next up, we have our next poet, Mishka. Mishka is our youngest artist tonight. She is a 17-year-old poet who writes and performs her work in hope that it would help somebody someday, somewhere. She despises inequality, impertinence, and being in front of the camera. She is confident in the art of fabricating stories, which is just fancy jargon for lying. And she is the founder of Qalam, a creative conclave uniting poets from all around the world. Mishka recognizes her tiny stature, but still continues to have vast dreams. We are beyond grateful and proud that you could join us tonight. You have the floor whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Ayushi, for that introduction. Could somebody confirm if I'm audible?
Yep, you're all good.
Perfect. So to start off, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so enamored by every single artist who's here, especially Diksha ma'am. I've been so obsessed with their work, and every poetry night I hold at Kalam, all of you are such frequent mentions. So the fact that I am able to share a stage with all of you is beyond a privilege. So mental illness for me has been a very close and an old friend. And the one revelation that I made from my recovery was that how alienating the entire process is. Mental illness forces you to feel that you're the only one who's ever been through this, how it alienates you and makes you feel so alone. So while my pieces may not be a beacon of hope, I try to make them as raw and real as possible so that somebody somewhere can know that they're not alone in feeling the way they do. and the struggle isn't only theirs to feel and only theirs to share. So the piece that I'm going to perform today is titled 40 Seconds. It's titled 40 Seconds because every 40 seconds we lose somebody to suicide. And I wrote this at a time of my life that when I personally felt like I was about to succumb to the illness, but luckily I didn't, and I'm here today. But I wrote this for my best friend, who's also a musician, and just to provide a little bit of context. And yeah, I hope somebody resonates with this. Remember, whenever we try to play hide and seek, I'd close my eyes and count 1, 2, 3. I'd open them to find you still sitting on your seat. You told me you couldn't find the will to leave, how you didn't want to hide without me. Something about there not being any light without me. See, this, it sounded easy in my head. See, I've replayed this 100 times. I'd pause, play, forward, and rewind. But trust me, I know what I'm saying when I tell you it's time. So don't freak out and don't start with your grieving. I just thought I'd tell you a couple of things before I get to leaving. Stop shaking, just smile. By the end of this letter, we'd have gotten together forever. See, we both knew that this was coming our way. And I know leaving isn't the answer, but I'm done asking questions anyway. Please don't dismiss this as just another episode because this is starting to feel like the finale. So don't blame yourself and tell Mama, Papa, I apologize. See, I've been fighting this daily fight. I've been battling this since I was 9. So don't tell me that everything's going to be fine. I've made my decision. And I know I'm leaving a couple of incisions, but you'll be fine. This is just another game of hide and seek. And I'll be right here, always behind you. You keep going, you take your time. I promise one day I will be the one to find you. So when you talk about the love of your life, don't be afraid to meet their eyes. Don't be afraid to tell them loud and clear that she died of suicide. Tell them she fought a glorious fight. She left too soon, but she left with pride. And when you're sitting alone in your room at night, close your eyes and hold me tight. Write me another song and listen close. Because this time, I promise you, I'll sing along. So that was it. And I know, again, as I said, it probably wasn't a beacon of hope. It didn't have a happy ending, especially in the poem. But the fact that I'm able to recite this today and if I'm able to perform this today, I think that's a happy ending of its own. And again, I'm so thankful for this opportunity and I hope somebody could resonate to this. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Mishka. It was a very powerful piece and also touches a very sensitive topic that not a lot of work has addressed and is also a growing problem. Thank you for doing that. And we believe in you and your art. Keep going. And we look forward to hosting you once again. Thank you for sharing this beautiful work with us tonight. Next, we have Simmer. Simmer is 20-year-old artist and founded Unerased Poetry, a community-based organization in Mumbai for promoting and producing spoken word poetry in Hindi and English. Simmer has been writing poetry since the age of 9 and has performed at multiple open mic events. His inspiration to start Unerased came from poet Neil Hilborn from Button Poetry. He read a Facebook post by him, which gave him a push to make the Indian poetry scene get the recognition it deserves. We're so happy to have you, Simmer, and the floor is yours.
Hi, I hope I'm audible. Thank you for having me. Um, I am in a very small town right now, and I don't know how good my internet is going to be. And apparently, there is a power cut, so my Wi Fi might shut any minute. So I'm just going to give you all a heads up. I was just hoping throughout the performances that I don't lose my internet. Um, I don't know if I write poetry about mental health. I've just been writing about my experiences, and I guess a lot of them have been about my anxiety, which I have been going to therapy for the past couple of years. And um, yeah, I feel currently the situation in India is just so weird to say the least. uh, and we've been talking about all the repercussions it's had socially, economically, but yeah, there's very less conversation around how it's affecting our mental health. uh, just thinking about it, I don't think a lot of us, at least I haven't even completely processed what's happened in the past 1.5 year. Is and so this whole space of being isolated, being on your own, has made me write a lot of poetry around that. So I'm just going to read you a poem. This is something I had written from this thought in school. I used to be told a lot by like my friends around me, like if I made plans on my own, that like loneliness is not a good thing, kind of thing. So this piece is called "Loneliness is a Bad Thing." I have been told that loneliness is a bad thing, like it's a pimple above my lips or a loud burp on a dinner table. It's always sort of there, but no one should know about it. I keep my silence about my loneliness hidden in pockets that feel too heavy, but I don't talk about it. Even if it's the heaviest feeling I feel, even if it's been there for years, like a childhood that was crushed and killed, my loneliness does not crush or kill. It pinches me. It pinches me like my mother used to on Monday mornings to wake me up for school. It always pinches me just when I have started to fall asleep, just when I have started to dream a prettier dream. Maybe that is why I'm always sleepy now. I did not know the value of this poem till I almost lost it. Did not know the value of my words till I was silent. I will never stop writing this poem because I know how urgent it is for me to finally come out of the door that I have been hiding behind for as long as I can remember. There is a song that I listen to very often that has a line that says, "In every breath, there is life. In every breath, there is life." Today, I'm alive despite the harshest of nights because of that one song that held my face in the middle of the night, kissed my forehead, told me that there is a whole day ahead of me waiting to be lived, asked me if I still have poems to write and stories to tell and make people believe in love again. A yoga instructor once told me that the length of our lives is not measured by the numbers of years that we shall live, but it is measured by the number of breaths that we can take. She told me that I take twice the number of breaths than I should in a minute, implying that I will die twice as early. I have been counting my breaths since that day. There is another song that I listen to very often that has a line that says, "We're all gonna die." On most days, I have used that song as an excuse to not get out of my bed because we're all gonna die. But today, it's like ticking on the wall in front of me, like the clock, asking me to go out, to live, to love, to cry, to create, because we are all going to die. I have noticed my breath go down by almost half when I am listening to this music, which is to say, I will live longer than I anticipated because of someone else's art, which makes me question why I never wrote the poems that I lived in the darkest of times. It takes a leap of faith to take out everything hidden in your pockets and place it on the dinner table, like a loud burp, in front of everyone you didn't want to hurt, and not apologize for your emotions this time. I have been dying to take out the diary that hides the only hole in my door for somebody to peep inside and fight for this loneliness that we carry all our lives, then hide it from everyone, even ourselves, till one day you realize that in every breath there is life, and a loud burp is just the most that you can ever breathe. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Samir. thank you for adding to this conversation for one. Along with you, I don't think many of us have completely processed what has happened this past year, but thank you for adding to that conversation. We definitely need to learn to breathe, like you said. Yeah, so next up, we have Moira. Moira Rajpal is a 21-year-old spoken word poet from Mumbai. She has performed and judged spoken word competitions at top institutions across India, like IIT Mumbai, NIT, and more, as well as notably sharing the stage with the world's foremost social humanoid robot, Sophia, engaging in vital conversations about the welfare and progress of women across the world. She loves interacting with students and peers that share her love for poetry, music, acting, films, and endurably extremely bad jokes internationally. So we are extremely grateful for you and your work tonight, and we cannot wait to hear some of your bad jokes.
Oh man, you should feel lucky because it's too early in the morning for me to make a bad joke, but it might just happen, so watch out. I was actually talking to Pratish about this, where I felt extremely concerned about my contribution to your theme and the conversation around it. But as I was thinking about it last night, when we talk about mental health, especially in the South Asian community, I don't have much to add to what the people before me have said, but I think why it's so extremely intertwined with identity has always been, to me, the fact that we kind of, I don't know, I might be wrong in this, but like I feel like brown kids have like so many more expectations on them than like the rest of the kids around the world do, and that's something I've always like. I'm extremely grateful because I have an extremely supportive family. Like my parents are friends with me, but I've also, like, over the last a year and a half, as things, I'm so sorry about the noise in the back. I live on the second floor. There's always traffic. But it's always in the last 1.5 years, because we've all been at home in the proximity to, like, everyone has increased so much. What I've realized is that there's not a lot of people that like enjoy the same privileges I do, and it's terrifying and it is extremely saddening, but I've been trying to like work through it. When it comes to identity, I actually sat down at like 11 IST last night and thought about what identity means to me, and I realized that my relationship with myself has been pretty crap, honestly. But and I asked myself why that's been, and I actually kind of like wrote a little, like I wrote like 10 lines, but they have no resolution. I'm just gonna say them to you because I think nothing is more explanatory of my relationship with myself right now, which is that I've told myself to be less, screamed and yelled and fought with myself, shrieked with the insolence of a child that knows not when they are pushing the envelope of impertinence. You are too much, you take up too much space. And then chastise myself for not realizing that screaming and yelling and fighting and shrieking with insolence of any manner is too much and takes up too much space, and curse myself for that too. Curse myself for thinking too much, feeling too much, saying too much, taking too much, giving too much, and being too much. And it's been 12 hours of epiphanies where I've had to realize that that is not going to cut it. And I'm going to have to do better because I think I deserve more. I'm just going to move to, I have 3 pieces for you today. My work has, like Simar said, I don't know if I write about mental health. I write about my own experiences, and what gives me most clarity of thought is feeling extremely deep emotions, and to the point where the only way of letting them out is to like get a pen and paper, no matter how bad the poem is, and write it down. So this was just one of those days where everything just seems like it's too much right now. It's called I've Been Crying on the 17th. I've been holding my breath, ears perked, eyes fixed, flipping pages on a big blue ball circling the largest fire I know. Or is that in my chest? Leaves, yellow, leaves, red, leaves fall, leaves on the ground, leaves under footsteps as they leave. Come back now. There are too many things waiting, too many things wilting, too many things out of reach, too many things alone. I'm scared of the strangest things. There is nothing here. And so much nothing is terrifying. So I hope that this will amount to something strange, if not beautiful. This is now a sermon, a prayer, but it will always be a love song. I've been crying on the 17th. Super short, but it just felt like so much at the time. The next piece is something that I performed at a show for Simar. Let me just tell you, Simar, apart from being my one of my favorite poets and least favorite comedians, has always been a good friend and is part of a major reason of why I do poetry, since he pushed me to write my first piece and perform it and then put it on YouTube, and thanks him. But the next piece is something that I wrote for two of the most important people in my life, because I think it was a message to both like them and myself. It doesn't have a title. It goes, you speak, and I know you will change the world. You have time for the everyday frivolity of things. You find beauty in ordinary things. You have such a horrible habit of waiting to save people, you almost couldn't save yourself. You speak and the world wants to believe you came here to change it. You were made of greater things for greater things, and it would be so strange if it weren't so obvious. If only you would speak. But you are in love with all the wrong things, things that keep you up at night for all the wrong reasons. You are in love with flighty, undependable experiences. Stars that you hold with singed fingertips that leave the sky too soon. This tradition of keeping track of time, you know exactly how many seconds you put in the hours you spent waiting for people to show up. Even though I know you think it was never enough time. You put your faith in the wrong people and expect them to guide you through the night. You take everything head on, never a fight. And yet you seem to ignore the fact that days change and love leaves. And when it walks out your front door, it will take everything you gave it, but it will take all your time to slam it down on someone else's table and say, here, take this. Maybe you'll do better with it. Maybe you'll know what to do with it. I've never seen someone ignore the truth with so much faith. You amaze me. Teach me what you speak. Give me your belief. It would be so strange if it weren't so beautiful. But you already knew this. So speak. You might just change the world. Moving on to my last piece for today. This was just a conversation with myself. I don't learn the first time. It's called Things I Wish You Didn't Have to Learn the Hard Way. 1, the voices of the people you love or loved are as easy to forget as they are to remember. It's not a bad thing. One day, when your mind tricks you into trying to remember how their voice in your ears made you feel, your heart will know better. And it will be a good thing. Which brings me to 2, the good things. Take the good things without questioning where they came from, why they're here, and how long they're going to stay. If you're lucky, you may find yourself watching the sun set on a shore you never thought you would see together, and realize that it would be okay if life didn't amount to much more than just this feeling in just this moment. Which brings me to 3, just this feeling in just this moment may also not amount to much. And even that will be okay. Things are too temporary to make anchors out of, and anchoring yourself to everything will never let you move forward. A luxury that you and I cannot afford. Which brings me to 4, afford yourself the luxury of trying to find meaning in the time you spend with yourself. Things, people, places, they change too much, and you will come to realize that you can't afford to change what you mean to yourself too often. Which brings me to 5, you can't worry too much or too often. The things that keep you up at night stop you from dreaming, and time is never enough when you get the chance to escape the ordinary. Which brings me to 6, the ordinary. Living every day ordinarily takes far more courage and grit than escaping into the ordinary, escaping into the extraordinary. To show strength under pressure is efficiency, but strength unvaried is excellence, which brings me to seven. Of all the things that remain unvaried, it should be your resolve to take your own name in a room full of opportunity. Why spend time in questioning what you deserve when acting on that opportunity will answer that question for you? Which brings me eight questions, even when you can't find answers, are worth asking on repeat all the time, even the same ones twice, thrice, 100 times, till you've made sure every sliver of doubt in your heart will leave. Which brings me to nine, when the people you love leave. Sorry, that's it. Sometimes the people you love leave, which brings me to 10, the people who stay. Underrated, undervalued, underloved, understand that love is making the choice to stay, even when you know it's easier to run. Which brings me to stay. Stay when it's bad, stay when it's good, stay when it hurts, and stay despite knowing that it's easier to run. It will be okay. Thank you. That's it for today. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I have loved performing for you. You guys have been so sweet.
Thank you, Moira, for those beautiful pieces. I felt like we often forget how self-understanding and self-love becomes a larger part of our self-identity. Thank you for exploring that. And something that stayed with me from your poem was the line that everything ordinary takes far more courage. That was a very deep line. And thank you for sharing such beautiful work. Once again, I would like to thank all the artists on behalf of ISA for performing such beautiful pieces that mean so much to them. And it was a pleasure to be able to host this night tonight. I'm sure all of us would have realized the depth of of a topic, of something that's like so personal art can explore. But we must remember that these conversations around mental health and identity must not end tonight. But it should be a beginning and a start of each of us being self-aware and doing our own part. And doing our own part in kind of exploring our own selves and being fearless, as a lot of poets mentioned. As we near the end, um, I would like to invite all of you to give your concluding remarks and share a few words about what you think is the role art can play in addressing any issues, whatever, whatever, not just this theme, and bringing or creating some sort of awareness. And you also feel free to share anything about your journey as an artist and exploring this in South Asia, specifically in India, where art wasn't given a lot of recognition maybe like 10 years back, and things are changing now. So like maybe your journey or anything. Let's begin with Deeksha.
Yeah, you know, I will just say that, given that we're living in a time, especially a year when our hearts are constantly shattered. I mean, we are numb and our hearts are shattered, and it takes a different form of catharsis to come out of it. For me, there's nothing that makes me happier than a good metaphor, a well-constructed sentence, even in, an academic paper. That's just me. But it could be different for any of the attendees here. And so what's important to remember is that we need to move from consumption to creation. I mean, even if I always tell my friends that even if there's just 15 minutes of your day that you're not consuming Instagram, Facebook, anything, and you're just creating. And creating doesn't mean you're writing a poem. Creating can mean any sort of art that you're creating, anything that is just you, because at the end of the day, it's about empathy. I always say that no one is coming to save you, because you don't need saving from yourself. So I think that to move from consumption to creation and to really find your catharsis in a year like this, with all the numbness that you hold, will be difficult, but it's hopefully not impossible. I mean, that's the hope that we're thriving on. And so I'll just say that, and I hope that everyone is well, that your families are well, and if you're grieving, then I hope that you get through your grief stronger. Although there's no right way to grieve. So I hope that you're taking care of yourself, all of you. Yeah.
Thank you for those insightful words. Moving on to Dhruv.
I would just like to say that an identity crisis really goes away when you own whoever, whatever, however you are. And I think sexiness, attractiveness, beauty, all of that doesn't come from the way you look or whether you fit into a stereotype of beauty or not, but it just comes from owning it. And if I look at so many, I think Western artists, for example, Lizo, or just so many of the new diverse ones who embrace their individuality so much, I think there is so much to learn from the idea that simply owning who you are, unless you're a serial killer, can really strengthen your life experience and not have yourself doubt yourself as much. And I think that put your art out there, man. Like, you really, like, just keep putting it out there, just keep putting it out there. And I, as a perfectionist and someone with OCD, struggle to reach a certain level of quality, and I want to be a certain way because I'm doing everything on my own, from like editing to otherwise. But I think we really have a gift as people who can make people feel, and I think we should just keep putting it out there, because that strengthens your identity. When you find where you belong and where your work belongs, it means a lot. But thank you guys so much for having us, and thank you to all the poets. It's been so lovely to hear what everything has said. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dhruv, for sharing that message. I completely resonate with being original, being out there. Thank you for sharing that. Mishka, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So I think art for me has always been a refuge. I've always sought refuge in poetry and painting and anything creative, because I don't feel that there's anything more cathartic than that, at least not for me. And the fact that I personally feel everybody needs to seek an outlet, and if that outlet can be art, then I think that's the best option and that's the best alternative, because it really does give you an opportunity to understand who you are and where you come from. And the fact that you can share your art with other people and people can resonate with it, I think that's the greatest power we have. And I also believe that there is creativity in unity, and the more we as artists discuss and engage in discourse, that's how we grow and that's how we thrive. And it's because of platforms like yours that we get an opportunity, and especially young artists like me get an opportunity to grow. So I'm really thankful to all of you for that.
Thank you for that. It's very beautiful to see that you've found your outlet and a way for you to grow like this, and are able to make people feel such a vast variety of emotions. So thank you so much for that. Next, let's hear from Moira.
I don't know how much I have to add, but I think I kind of resonated with what Dhruv said, is that I think in school, the reason why I struggled so much with having a personality that people would like type was because I was just so fixated on the things that I didn't like about myself, and just trying to fix those and fix those and fix those, and never realizing that there are a buttload of things that I do like about myself. But I think I was just trying to motivate myself to do something 2 days ago, and I wrote, and it's up here on my wall, that this is it, the time to be me has come. And I've just now realized how important that actually is, to come to that realization that this is it, the time to be you is just, it's there now. That's it. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to ever do from tomorrow and from today, is that you just got to be yourself. That's it. And while everyone has talked about the importance of making art, I think what the most important lesson I've learned over the period of lockdown, has been that it's okay to not, also that it's very, very okay to not make art. Because I think I haven't written anything new in the last 6 months, and I'm no cap, like I haven't written anything at all. And I was ostracizing myself for it. I was just like, bitch, you gotta do this. But then I was like, you know what, you don't gotta do this, it's fine. There is nothing to experience, so what are you going to write about? You're stuck in a room all day, so what are you even going to do? But yes, that's it. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for giving me a chance to be here, and that's it.
Thank you, Moira. Thank you for sharing a very non-talked aspect of a non-talked aspect that it's okay to be unproductive. It's okay to like take a step back sometimes, and it's okay to not. Um, Lastly, I would like to invite Simmer to say a few words before.
I don't think I have so much to add because I think everyone said a lot of smart stuff, and I don't consider myself as smart. And but I just one thing I was thinking about is that a lot of times, especially when we're talking about mental health, I feel social media tends to glorify sometimes a lot of conversation around that. It's okay to write about what you're feeling, but I feel it's important to try to seek help, because I feel like it sadness is very addictive. At least as an artist, I have felt that, and we tend to like continuously be in that cycle. So it's only when you seek help you realize that you can be better, and if you can, then why not? So yeah, I just feel like all of this is great. Art is a great way to cope, but this is one thing I've felt. But yeah, apart from that, good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Simmer. Uh, Thank you for having. It was a pleasure to have all of you tonight. Before we end the event, I will just give it off to Anisha.
Yeah. So once again, we just want to thank all our poets, Diksha, Dhruv, Mishka, Samar, and Moira. You guys all gave amazing performances, and each one of you covered really important topics. But what makes this conversation so important and insightful is how relatable these topics are to everyone here and everyone viewing this. Also, just to give a couple other thanks, we want to thank Kavya for giving such a beautiful performance. And another thanks to the entire ISA Council for making this event possible, and also Pratyush and Ayushi for moderating. And last but not least, thank you to everyone who came out and were able to join us this evening. If you were interested in this event, please make sure to check us out on social media to stay updated and informed about future virtual speaker events. And if you know of any friends or family that missed attending this event live, no worries, because this has been recorded and it will be uploaded onto our YouTube page along with the other speaker recordings from the past. And so definitely check all of that out. And thank you again.